majors. I'm here to talk about minors. Because you are majoring with us, you do need to declare a minor. So yes, there are some majors across campus that don't require minors, but in the Department of Communication, you do need to declare a minor as well. And most minors are 24 credits. So as you're looking across campus at different minors that interest you, you may notice a few that are slightly more credits and perhaps a few that are slightly less, but the average number of credits for a minor is 24. So as you're planning, you can keep that in mind. Now, choosing a minor is based on a myriad of factors. So you perhaps will do a foreign language minor because you have expertise in that area and you see it really complementing your corporate and health major. Maybe you want to be an advocate in the hospital setting, and having that Spanish or foreign language background would be very helpful. Perhaps you're seeking to get a minor in the College of Business to complement, but you don't have to complement your major. So if you have a passion or an interest that you just want to explore further, the minor can do that for you as well. So we have students who minor in dance, and maybe they want to work in the arts, but maybe they just want to have that personal enrichment and experience something that they love at the same time that they're doing perhaps a more professional focused major. So as you're picking and choosing, you can talk to loved ones, significant others, think of your own passions, and certainly talk to your advisors and your faculty as well, because they may have suggestions as you're exploring possibilities. It is very important that you declare your minor. We have a number of students who go through advising and they haven't declared a minor yet. And the challenge with that is that when those classes are not showing up on the AR, then it's difficult to know exactly how to pace yourself out across the semesters. So you just watched a video on how to do that pacing and planning for graduation. And so you do want that minor to show up on the AR to help you in that process. So certainly by the beginning of your junior year, you should have declared a minor. If you declare a minor with us, you simply call Julie, and I'll give you some information on the web page, the Canvas web page that goes with this video, on who to contact and how to facilitate that process. If you're majoring outside of, or minoring, pardon me, outside of the department, then you contact the department that you're minoring in and let them know that you'd like to declare the minor, and they're the ones that file that paperwork at the registrar. So we can't help you declare a minor if it's not our minor. But it's a very simple process. You just contact that department, tell them you want a minor with them, and they'll help you facilitate. There is an additional possibility for those of you who would like to design your own minor. That is something that you are able to do. So if you want to personalize a minor, maybe you want a minor that's more project-based. If you're very hands-on and you're very artistic perhaps, and you want to mix a minor of photography and 2D art and some communication courses and some business courses, and maybe a class from letters and sciences, you can absolutely do that. So there are a myriad of ways that you can create a program that is perfect for you. If you're interested in doing the individualized minor, I have the information in the Canvas page associated with this video to tell you all about where to go and how to pursue creating your own minor. There are many communication majors that minor in the business school. And so just as a heads up, this is also on that Canvas page going along with this video, but I link you to all of the possible business minors so that you can take a look at what those might be. So if you're majoring in public relations, it might be a natural fit, for example, to have a minor in marketing. Yes, you can major and minor in our department. And this is by far what the majority of our students do, because they're passionate about communication and they love a myriad of aspects about the experience. And so they want to major in one area and minor in another with us. And we love that and we welcome you, and of course you can. There are a couple things to pay attention to, however, if you decide to go that route. You cannot overlap classes. So a class cannot count in both your major program and your minor program. That's a no-no. And what that means is there are some major-minor combinations that are just not a good fit. Because there are too many classes that are in the major that are also required in the minor, and it's difficult to parse that out. So for example, it is difficult to be a broadcast print web major and a journalism minor, or vice versa, because there's a significant amount of overlap. So when you're going through our minors that are available and thinking about possibilities, that's something to pay attention to, is looking at the AR for your major and the required courses, looking at the AR for the minor you're interested in, and just kind of comparing, okay, how is this going to work out? What will happen is there's overlap, a little bit of overlap in almost every combination. And so sometimes you do need to be careful, because there'll be an elective course up in your major that you actually want to have count down in your minor as a required course. And what will happen in your AR is your AR fills in the first blank available. So if you take a course that you want in your minor, but it fits somewhere as an elective in your major, the AR will slide it into that major slot first. What's supposed to happen is when you take another class that fulfills that major requirement, that course should slide down into the next available spot, which would be in your minor, which is where you want it, right? That's what's supposed to happen. But technology being what it is, that doesn't always work so perfectly. And so it is very important that you look carefully at your AR and that you identify the classes in your minor and make certain that they are not inadvertently showing up in your major. And if they are, that is a very simple fix. You just contact myself, Sue Wildemuth, Kathy Brady, or Julie. Again, all that contact information is on the Canvas page associated with this video. And we can go in and simply move that down to where it belongs. It's a 5-minute process. But it's just something I want you to be aware of, because sometimes as people are looking at their AR and they're not cognizant of that, they sort of see, ooh, my major's done, but then what's happening with my minor? And what it is that those classes haven't slid down to where you want them to be. So watch the AR carefully. And then when choosing electives in the major and the minor, there's usually a list of electives, right? So if you look at an AR, or a check sheet actually, if you just look at a check sheet, you'll see that there's usually a lot of choices in these various areas. Pick from this list, pick from that list. But what can happen is that you may have something that's counting as an elective in your major, and you intended it to be there. You originally took it to count in your major. But then you look down in your choices for your minor, and you realize that the minor list of options is a little bit shorter. There's not as many options perhaps in this particular category. And so if you leave that elective up in your major, you have fewer classes to choose from here. So sometimes what people will do is they'll say, I'd like that elective actually taken out of the major, put down here where it fits, and then I'll pick another elective in the major, because the major check sheet has maybe more options in that category. So it gives you a little bit more choice, a little bit more flexibility in your program. So I've definitely done that with a number of students that I've advised, where they'll say, but the only class, these 3 classes are all counting in my major. They have to count in my major. So the only class left for me to take as an option in my minor is one I'm not really interested in. And we say, well, we can work around that by taking an elective option out of the major, counting it in the minor, and then you'd have more choices up here in the major. So those are just some tricks of the trade, I guess, of things to pay attention to. So what minors can you choose from with us? We have 6 different minors, and they all look very similar in terms of how they're structured, but there are a few variations between them. Certainly there's variations in content and in the kinds of things that you're learning, but just in terms of structure. So for example, we have 2 of our 6 majors, advertising and broadcast print web, that have 9 credits that are required, 9 mandatory, or what we call core credits. And then after that, it's choose between a few applied electives, choose between a few theory electives, and then finish out the rest of the program with all just choice courses that you find interesting from a long list of possibilities. We have two of our minors, corporate and health and general communication, that up in that top required core have 2 required classes, so a 6-credit required core. Then they have a series of choices between some different very targeted classes, and then it's that long list of pick from a whole myriad of electives. So they're a little bit more flexible perhaps. And then we also have 2 minors, public relations and media arts and game development, that have a 15-credit core at the top. So these are the classes you have to take, and then they have a long list of possible electives to flush out the rest of the 24 credits. So again, when you're looking at these different minors, you want to look for the one that is the best fit for your interests, your passions, and your future. But you also want to be aware of how that minor is structured, and how much choice there is embedded in the minor, and how that might impact you as you move through your program. The most flexible minor, if you're looking for one that really gives you a lot of choices, is the general communication minor, because this is the minor that really allows you to pick from communication and journalism courses all across our program. It's not, however, the most targeted minor, right? So you're not necessarily getting classes that would focus you in a particular direction for a profession. You're designing it a little bit yourself because you're picking and choosing classes that interest you. So that's a whole myriad of things to think about. Certainly, you want to read very carefully and go through the various links on the Canvas page associated with this video to really understand the process of selecting a minor and the different options available to you. And then if you have declared your minor and you are with us, you're majoring and minoring with us, we're so glad to have you. But also pay attention to those few things that I mentioned about, is everything scrolling down where you want it to be? Do you need one of us to move a class into another location? Those would all be really important things to pay attention to as you're planning out your classes for the future. Thank you.